Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody here, and thanks for inviting us to this exciting discussion about power savings and energy. My name is Raymond Medeiros. I'm the Director of Innovation and Technology for the Carson City School District.
And I'm Brian Waltz. I'm the Systems Engineer for the Carson City School District.
Perfect. So I understand you guys have some questions maybe for us?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and shoot.
How do you guys work with computers?
So it's very different between my role and Mr. Waltz's role, but it's innovation and technology. So I generally manage and lead the folks in the innovation and technology department. I do some of the technical work, but that's mostly Mr. Waltz actually and the rest of the group that actually get out there and do all the repairs. So I'll let him speak to kind of what he does.
And so as Mr. Medeiros was saying, my role is more with the equipment. So there's a lot of equipment that runs the things that you guys do at the sites. That's where I find myself working is I work on the servers that do the core roles, and then of course we have technicians that focus more on the individual devices that you kids get, like the one-to-one devices. So,
like your Chromebooks, and the student information system, and really everything that revolves around technology within the school district are things that we have our hands in.
You help people with energy costs?
You know, I'm actually on the committee, the steering committee for that. So we help our sites with ideas and ways to save energy. For example, I don't remember the school offhand. I think it's Eagle Valley, but they brainstormed and they came up with ways to save money. And one of those ways was a surge protector that actually shut off during certain periods of time, like at nighttime. It automatically shut off to save power. So the laptop carts aren't continuously charging all day and all night. So really they're only drawing power during the day when they're using them, and they have also some additional time to charge the batteries, and then they cut off so they're not drawing any unnecessary power.
Do you think turning off the computer at night is a good idea?
ooh, so turning off a computer at night is a good idea to save power, but there are reasons why you wouldn't do it as well, and that focuses on things like productivity. Like if you have a computer and you walk up to this computer and you need to do work immediately, you can't wait 5 minutes, then maybe you don't want to turn it off. Additionally, there are components in a computer that take additional wear and tear every time they're turned on and off. So from the pure saving power perspective, yes, it is a good idea. But in the broader perspective, there are some other things to consider why you may not want to do that as well.
One of the things maybe, what are you doing with your computer, right? So if it's monitoring security cameras, for instance, and you have to record those video feeds, you don't want to shut it off because then you're not going to have that video evidence or that video feed. It's no longer going to be recorded. So it kind of depends on what the purpose of it is, like Mr. Waltz mentioned. And the other thing is we actually brought a computer here, and if you look inside of it, you can see all the different components inside of it, right? So some of the things in here that are of interest, and I'll pull some of this apart real quick. But some of the things that are of interest is the hard drive right here. This hard drive is mechanical, so it's kind of like your car engine, right? Car engine, when you turn it on, you have moving parts and stuff like that. If you think about it like that, if you park your car in the garage, do you want to leave your car running overnight in the garage?
Yeah.
Because it's going to use energy, which in the case of a car, it's gasoline, right? It's fuel.
Yeah.
And it's also going to wear out the mechanical parts inside of it. So the hard drive will wear out much faster. They all have what's called a mean time before failure, which means that there's only a certain amount of hours that they'll run before they fail. And there's also, like this piece right here, this black piece is a fan. So again, a mechanical piece that will eventually fail if you keep it running. So you have a couple reasons. One, you want to save power, and the other is you want to extend the life of your device by shutting it off because it has mechanical parts in it that will fail. So I'll just kind of leave those there.
How do you feel when teachers don't turn off their computers overnight?
That's an interesting question. We obviously advocate for that. We want them to shut the computers off, but at the same time, they may have a reason for leaving it on. That's a legitimate, purpose or reason for that I'm not aware of. So we kind of leave it to them and their professional, opinion as to whether or not it needs to be shut off. But I think at the very least, the projectors definitely need to be shut off because they draw a lot of power and the bulb only lasts for so many hours. So those should be turned off. The new digital displays that kind of look like TVs on the wall, those need to be shut off because the same situation, those only have a certain number of lifespan hours. So we need to make sure that we maximize that investment and shut those devices off so we can have them for many more years.
There's additionally a couple of other options that are somewhat in between that too. So you guys have asked us about keeping them on versus keeping them off. When you keep them on, there's also a couple of modes that can save power. It can save time on those resources. Like how Mr. Medeiros was talking about, hey, your hard drive is constantly spinning while it's working. There's a couple of options like sleep or hibernate that drastically reduce the energy consumption of the computer, and they also turn off those spinning components so they don't take nearly as much damage at night. So there's a couple of options in between the on and off as well.
Does using the computer waste more energy?
So using it versus, let's say, it just being turned on and not using it? Is that what the question is? Or
I forgot what is. Does if you're using the computer, does if you're like on the internet, do you waste more energy?
okay, so I would say yes. I don't know if it's easily measurable. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if it's such a small amount that I don't know if it's really measurable, but when you're doing things on a computer, the processor inside of it consumes more energy to process the information that you're providing to it, the input, the mouse clicks, the keyboard, sending data back and forth through the internet, sending and receiving data, I should say. So the power consumption does go up, especially if you're playing video games. You guys have video game consoles at home?
Yeah.
You notice if you play it for a while, the fans will start kicking on and going to a higher speed. It's because of the heat that's being generated from that, and the heat is being generated from the energy. So that's that's one example of using it does consume more energy.
If you leave the computer on, will it break? And how do you fix it?
So that actually goes back to something Mr. Medeiros said earlier. If you do leave a computer on all the time, eventually it will break. You have parts like this that have mechanical motors in there that will spin themselves to the point that eventually they don't spin straight any longer. At that point, parts like this will need to be replaced. And that can be fairly costly. I mean, nowadays the costs of hard drive are coming down. So it could cost you easily $80 if this thing were to run itself to the point that it couldn't run any longer. Something that's interesting too though is a lot of modern hard drives actually don't build to use these mechanical parts any longer. There are still parts on them that fail, but they've moved away from these rotational bits that are failing. So in the future we might see computers that are able to run longer and longer on without actually failing.
One of the benefits of moving from a mechanical drive like that to what's called a solid state drive, which is basically just a computer chip instead of the inside of the hard drive. And I probably should have brought one taken apart, but there are multiple platters, they're called, in there. So they look like a disc and they're stacked on top of each other. And what's called a read-write head will scan those, depending on what you're looking for, it will scan the index, identify where the data is stored on the drive, and then grab that information off of the drive. The new ones don't need to do all of that stuff. So, or they do it in a more efficient way, I should say. So the power consumption on the newer hard drives is much lower than the ones on these mechanical ones that are being phased out. Any other follow-up questions, or you guys have more questions for us?
Teachers should turn off their computers because the computer gets more energy and you need money to pay. And if you do leave the computer off overnight, the hard drive will power off and the computer won't work anymore. I think teachers turn all the way their computers off to get more energy and to get more battery to turn the computers all the way up. I think teachers leave the computers on all day in the night. Teachers have work in the computer, they go and miss the work. I think teachers should keep their computers on because it takes 8 whole minutes to turn it on and you might need to do something really important. I think teachers should put their computers on sleep or hibernate because it doesn't waste too much time and it doesn't waste a lot of energy and not that much money. I think that teachers should put it on sleep or hibernate because if they have important work and they just shut it down, then it would have you to do it all over again.